Yeah, thanks for joining us today. Could you introduce yourself, mate?
Yes, so my name's Craig Fletcher. I'm the founder and chief exec of Multiplay.
Excellent, cool. And could you tell us a bit about Insomnia, Craig? Because I know it's been going a hell of a long time now. Sort of how it's changed over the years.
Well, you can sum up Insomnia in 3 words: Glastonbury of gaming. That's what we've got to. It's a celebration of all things games. It's a true festival. It runs 24/7 for 4 days, and people come from all over the world to share a passion for gaming. It's a place where people who love games belong, and you have everything from the enthusiasts who bring their PCs on trains, cars, planes, and bring them in to the show to play literally 24/7 for 4 days. And you have people getting dressed up in their favourite game characters. You have people playing board games, card games, coming and seeing the expo. And the great thing is, it's people go, but you've got mums and dads in one hall, and then you've got like the proper hardcore in the other hall. And it's like, well, they all mix because they love games. It's a true celebration of all things gaming.
Cool. And can I ask you? It's been 1 year since the game deal. You know, how's it gone since then? Has there been many changes?
I mean, one of the biggest changes is growth. I mean, we've more than doubled our turnover. We've more than doubled our staff. I mean, when you get acquired, one of the things you always worry is the bride you walk down the aisle with the one you come back. And absolutely, it's been brilliant. Game have done everything they said they would do. They've given us nothing but all the support they could ever give us. And it's been, I talk about putting reins on a rocket because that's what we're doing. I mean, they didn't buy us to leave us ticking along. They bought us to really, right guys, here's resources, go for it. And we've gone for it, and it's then like, hold on, as it goes off, which is really, really great. So I mean, we've grown massively. I mean, the events are growing, still continuing to grow 60% year on year. I mean, you see here. I mean, this show last year was probably half the size that this one is. So if we're carrying on at that rate, it's going to be pretty huge.
Oh, that's excellent. And on the topic of growth then, I heard some rumours earlier in the year that the prize pools are really, really going to ramp up this year. And obviously the Hearthstone tournament is a healthy $20,000 prize pool. But then you've still got some of the other games like League of Legends, £5,000 or £3,000 for Rocket Leagues or new, obviously.
Yeah.
What's the sort of... Are you aiming to increase that? Or I guess there are challenges around that. You know, how do you sort of decide which games to do that for?
Well, I believe in the whole pyramid. So, for example, some people focus purely on the Premier League, whereas I believe that eSports is everything from the kick around in the park to the Sunday League, right the way through all the intermediate leagues and top. And you can't have one without the other. So we've always been very strong in community-based tournaments and public play and all that sort of stuff. So we believe building bottom up. So we've got a solid foundation in community, so then we're adding the pro stuff on top of it. And you saw the first Hearthstone Championship back in December, $30,000. We then did it again this time, and yeah, we've got some big plans in the works for what are the next majors we're going to add to the show. We're working on some big deals as to what additional halls even for additional content could be at the next show. So yeah, I mean, we believe in investing across the pyramid. So we're doing, for example, 9,000 people played in the Minecraft zone, for example, and they're playing for an ice cream. And I believe that's just as much esports as the guy winning 10,000 US on stage today for Hearthstone. So it's about how do we really build that funnel and bring more and more people into esports and build the audience.
I think that's a challenge as well, right? Is getting that the money all filters down, but it ultimately comes from the sponsors that fuel these tournaments.
It doesn't filter down, that's the problem.
Well, yeah. What are the challenges there? I guess getting those guys on board and then getting it to the players, because I'm quite close with some of the UK League of Legends players, and I think there's a team yesterday that finished 6th or so, and they've got £25 each. And I know it's still something, but they're in the ESL UK Premiership. They're trying to aim for getting more, and I think some of those players are maybe a bit frustrated that you don't see the money where you can do it as a full-time job until you get into like European Challenger Series and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly that answers exactly what I'm trying to say, is that you want to make it so it isn't so binary between 0 or 1, are you a pro player or not. You need to have like easing people in, and that's something we're working very much with Riot Games on. We're looking at how we can increase the feeder side of League of Legends in the UK, because it is very top heavy. And League of Legends is a classic example of that. There's a number of other games as well that are also very top heavy. So what you'll find like we've got everything from win an ice cream, win a game, win a few £100, win a few £1,000, win tens of thousands of quid, and that's the pyramid that you want to funnel people up. And I think that's the investment in esports we're making. I think it's a challenge because it's still very nascent. It's big sponsors are still very much don't know what it is. I mean, I still meet people who've never heard of Twitch. People in the investment banking world who've not heard of a $1 billion acquisition, and it's a massive education piece. And I guess those of us in the esports world just assume everyone knows, and that's a key thing to stop doing, because if you go and ask 100 people on the street right now and ask how many people have heard of Twitch or esports, I reckon 95 out of 100 have not heard of it still. So we've got a massive education to do.
I was going to ask about that actually, your thoughts on UK esports in general and how we can sort of grow it in a way, because it seems to be very small and different to, again, the European, the global tier of esports.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been a bit lagging behind in the UK, and I struggle to find the reasons why, because we've been plugging in, investing and keeping growing the scene, but we just never. I mean, Korea was miles ahead a decade ago, and the US has really caught up since too. And I think it doesn't take many doublings to catch up, and that's what we're starting to see now. I mean, you see the growth of these events, the growth of our tournaments, the growth of the viewership, and I don't think it'll take very long to catch up at all.
Do you think enough people care about UK sports? Because some of the matches I watch online, the numbers are still quite low, you know, in the hundreds, and, you know, again, whereas you go globally and it gets into the hundreds of thousands, and, you know, events like Intel Extreme Masters, do enough people care? And if not, do you think like companies need to do a bit better job at marketing maybe in the UK?
Well, absolutely, and I guess it's almost a cultural thing in the UK as well. I mean, I remember when I was running World Cyber Games for like 8 years, like trying to bring the Olympics team of the UK together to go and compete wherever the final was, and you'd almost have to drag someone over who was good at a game. I remember in particular there was a guy who was really good at Project Gotham Racing, and I said, "You're really good, enter the tournament, you've got a good chance of winning." And he did win, but it was quite convincing to get him to do that. And he ended up flying to Korea to compete in the finals. And I guess that's just a cultural thing. We don't like to be good at something. We like to be very reserved and step back. And I think that's one of the things that's got to change. It is changing. You'll see that with an event like this. You've got tens of thousands of people competing. And I think it's just... Don't try and force it. It'll happen anyway. As people, I mean, there's a great stat I often quote when I'm introducing esports to people. That's 99% of 8 to 15-year-olds are engaging with video games. That's one hell of a baby boomer style generation that's going to come through for whom gaming is a fact of life. And that's going to change everything. You've got a huge number of people that... I mean, Minecraft is kind of like the game that's hooked an entire generation, but they're not going to be playing Minecraft forever. They're going to move on to League of Legends, Counter-Strike. They're going to... StarCraft, whatever the next game is, and I think that's what I'm very keen to foster here. I often get asked by the guys in LAN hall going, "What are all these kids doing here?" And I'm going, "Who do you think's gonna be sat in your seat in 5 years' time?" Bring them over, get them converted to esports, get them enjoying the hobby, and there's your pro gamers of the UK for tomorrow. I think we've got an iceberg effect going on where you can only see 10% and there's 90% sat underneath, and the next few years are going to be when that 90% is revealed.
Sure. I'm just going to check this is all still okay. Yep. So, like, sort of couple more questions then. Can I ask for your thoughts on things like the Gfinity Arena, ESL Premierships, DreamHack London, and so on? Do you see them as rivals, or do you see it as you're in the same boat and you're all trying to grow esports?
Well, I think everyone's trying to do their own thing and trying to build UK esports, and I'd never say anyone trying. We need to do more. I mean, the UK's lagged behind for so much. There's 60 million people in this country. If 10% of them do esports, that's a lot of people. So the market's big and more. I mean, I'd always be worried if I sat here and said that the market's only big enough for one provider, because that's not really a market. There's always going to be room for other people, and I think all of us are striving in different ways and attacking different parts of the pyramid, and I think that's great. And things like the arena in London, that was the first arena that was done. It's brilliant. I know they've learned a lot. We've learned a lot watching what they're doing there. I mean, the Premierships is all good. I mean, everyone's. It's kind of, I talk about the esports being kind of like the Wild West. So everyone's out there mining for gold in all their different areas, and there's a lot of learning going on, and people will find out what works, what doesn't. I mean, just because something works in the Korea or works in the US doesn't necessarily mean it translates immediately over here, and you need to give it some time to work. So it's good that everyone's experimenting, trying out new things. It's great to see investment in esports. I mean, I've been doing this 22 years. I've seen a few false starts of esports over those years where VCs have come in, thrown a lot of money, disrupted the space, and then disappeared, and then we're left to pick up the pieces. That's happened a few times. This time, I think it's different, and the big difference is streaming and the accessibility of esports. It's no surprise that the curve of viewership starts to tick up after 2011 when services like Twitch arrive, because it became accessible. Because we were doing streaming before Twitch, it was horrendously expensive. Even having 4,000 concurrents in your stream would cost you tens of thousands. Whereas when you've got Twitch, where you've got social media growing, you see the tick up, and suddenly it's accessible and everyone wants a piece of it.